Zelensky continues appeal for tanks, $2.5 billion U.S. aid package announced. The United States on Thursday announced a new $2.5 billion military aid package for Ukraine. The package includes hundreds of armored vehicles, including Stryker personnel carriers, as well as ammunition and Avenger air defense systems. The West appears to be shifting its stance on sending tanks to Ukraine, as Kyiv continues its appeals for them. On Thursday, officials from 11 European nations announced a separate aid package for Ukraine, including a squadron of Challenger 2 tanks from Britain. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said earlier this week that his country would consider sending German-made Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine without Germany's approval. Meanwhile, Berlin has been in a standoff with Washington over the provision of tanks to Ukraine, saying Germany will only do so if the United States sends them as well, the Washington Post reported. In his nightly address, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky underscored the need for the equipment to defeat Russia. One of the most important elements is tanks, the Ukrainian leader said. Modern Western tanks, on the supply of which we are negotiating with our partners. Key developments. CIA Director William J. Burns secretly traveled to Kyiv at the end of last week, the Post reported. Burns made the trip to brief Zelensky on his expectations for Russia's military plans in the coming weeks and months, according to a U.S. official and other people familiar with the visit. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in Germany to convene a meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group at Ramstein Air Base, which will include defense leaders from approximately 50 nations in a group dedicated to Ukraine's self-defense, the Pentagon said Thursday. The Biden administration is looking into unconfirmed reports that Russian officials have opened a criminal case against a U.S. national suspected of espionage. A State Department spokesperson said Thursday. The individual was not identified by the Federal Security Service, or FSB, in its announcement. President Zelensky thanked the United States for another powerful defense support package in a tweet early Friday. The new package brings American military aid to $27.5 billion since the beginning of the Biden administration. It includes Bradley fighting vehicles and Stryker armored personnel carriers, additional Avenger air defense systems, and surface-to-air missiles, the U.S. State Department said. Battleground updates. Mercenaries from Russia's Wagner Group have become a key component of the Ukraine campaign, the British Defense Ministry said Friday. In its daily update, the ministry echoed U.S. estimates of up to 50,000 Wagner fighters in Ukraine, and said that while private military companies remained illegal in Russia, the group's owner had likely partially funded the organization via inflated government contracts awarded to his other companies. Washington has previously said that 40,000 of Wagner's fighters were directly recruited from Russian prisons. High-ranking Kremlin officials have been holding meetings with Belarusian national leadership, potentially setting conditions for a Russian attack on Ukraine from Belarus. The Institute for the Study of War reported. The think tank said such an attack was unlikely but more plausible in late 2023. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency warned that a nuclear disaster at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia plant could happen any day. After a visit to Ukraine, Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi said he was very worried about Zaporizhzhia, noting a dramatic reduction in the number of staff since Russia took control of the site in March. The United Nations Development Program will allocate $4 million to demining areas of Mykolaiv, one of the regions in Ukraine that is most contaminated with mines and ammunition. The money will go toward mechanized demining equipment and training individuals to operate it, Ukraine's Ministry of Reintegration said. Thanks for staying with us. See tomorrow.